realize that this movie has a really bad Rotten Tomatoes score, but I liked it. I'm giving it a fresh tomato. And the hard truth for Vin Diesel is that most of his movies are rotten on Rotten Tomatoes. Even the ones that I think some of us, not all of us, but some of us, you know who you are, would consider pretty darn good. And I have to say, at the press screening, and this has just become it's just the norm at this point. It happens at every press screening I go to for a Vin Diesel movie. The press laugh at the movie during it. And sometimes Vin Diesel laughs all the way to the bank, but sometimes he doesn't. I'm not sure what will happen with Bloodshot, especially with the coronavirus situation, but I can tell you that outside of his Fast and Furious movies, this is probably the best movie that Vin Diesel has ever made. I think it's even better. It's in the same vein as his Riddick movies, but it has a much bigger budget, and I think it's better made. It's just better on every level. I really thought it was a good film. I mean, yeah, the first 15 minutes are pretty silly and seem like a bad Michael Bay ripoff or a Kurt Michael Bay movie, but that's you discover that that's intentional. And once the movie really gets going and reveals itself to be what it truly is, I'd say it's more of a throwback to the movies that made Michael Bay famous. Like, remember The Island? Did you like The Island? I liked The Island, and I think it even really holds up. But you know what that Rotten Tomatoes score is? 40%. Just to kind of show you a pattern developing here. And this movie is a lot like The Island, in fact, which I think is a very big credit to the director, David S.F. Wilson, who's making his directorial debut in movies after working extensively in the VFX category on both video games and movies at Blur Studios, right? Like, this guy is really good. I thought he did a phenomenal job delivering this movie. And yeah, Bloodshot, like all Vin Diesel movies, are not for everyone. But as I tweeted after the press screening, if you like comics, sci-fi, and/or anime, I think you're going to at least enjoy this movie. I'm not saying you're going to love it and be like, it's the best movie ever made. But it certainly is, again, one of the best Vin Diesel movies ever made. And I really thought it was good. It was very satisfying. And what's satisfying about it is it has all the staples of that type of entertainment. Comics, sci-fi, anime, but executed incredibly well. From the acting to the VFX, two things that are usually not very good in this type of movie. I particularly liked it because it actually reminded me of an action movie by way of Epcot, right? Epcot. It just had that future world theme park looking toward the future vibe. I thought it was fun. And we have not just one, but several super soldiers. And all of their action scenes, including the use of their bionic parts, are not only believable, but cleverly executed. Also, the movie ups the ante in other ways. For instance, there's that big pivotal action scene that we've seen in the trailers, and that's not snow, that's flour added to the mix, right? And it really makes the scene even more visually interesting. And you wouldn't think you'd need to plus a scene where your hero, your lead, can rebuild his face mid-fight. But this movie goes for it. It's trying to operate on multiple levels, and I respect it for that. And a lot of the credit of the cleverness of the film goes to the screenwriters, and one in particular is Eric Heiserer, and I think it's pretty darn cool to have the sole screenwriter who did Lights Out, Arrival, and Bird Box on this movie. And again, I think that there's a Vin Diesel bias with reviewers, because I think if they paid more attention to that credit, maybe they're like, maybe I shouldn't be so fast to write it off. You shouldn't. I think it's very, very good for what it is. That's a big pet peeve I have, and I know some of you do as well, that people don't understand that there are different types of movies. They don't all go against the same measuring stick. All right, so I guess except for like you, right? But everyone's their own unique little measuring stick for movies. All right, so that's why we pay so much attention to the box office. Maybe the final action scene is a bit over the top, but I thought the VFX looked better in the actual movie than they have in the trailers. Maybe they got time to fix them. But also, at that point, I was so invested in the story, I just felt that scene held up, and I really enjoyed it. I also enjoyed the European settings, but not Europe on a budget, as they so often do in this type of movie. It was just a nice change of pace. And while the trailers do give away the twist, right, I was still impressed with this movie's ability to surprise me several times. They still managed to, there's still some misdirects in the trailers, by the way. Finally, but certainly not least, the acting. I know, and it's so important that the cast not only takes this movie very seriously, nobody here is collecting a paycheck, or just collecting a paycheck, of course they're getting paid, but they also have a comic book anime look to them, which really helps sell that kind of a story. Vin Diesel is Vin Diesel, right? But he delivers some absurd lines really well. Like, I laugh sometimes at how well his lines were delivered. I was like, that's hilarious, Vin. You really sold that. And his character has some really interesting things to say about how jarheads aren't respected by others. And I liked that part of the movie, and it actually echoes how reviewers are treating this movie. Guy Pearce is excellent with a really cool bionic arm. Lamorne Morris, who's American, is doing an amazing Stephen Merchant impression. Like, I would suspect he actually did model the character after Stephen Merchant and did a fantastic job. Sam Hugan is an excellent budget Alexander Skarsgård, at many points in the movie even sounding exactly like Alexander Skarsgård, and his inflection and tone, and even his voice itself. Like, if sometimes his character will say something off screen, you don't see him, you just hear his voice, and you'll be like, man, that sounds like Alexander Skarsgård. Toby Kebbell has a hilarious scene that he nails. What a gift to an actor. And Isaac Gonzalez finally gets to be front and center and knocks it out of the park. She not only looks like she stepped right off of the comic book page, but she earns her spot as a nuanced character with great emotional scenes and action scenes. So I had fun, as you can see. And I think you'll know if you're the type of person who would also have fun with this sort of movie. I also think that due to the type of film that it is and the coronavirus situation right now, down the line, a lot of people will have to discover the movie then, right? And when they do watch it, when you do eventually watch this movie, the time will come, you'll be bored, you'll be looking for something to watch, and you'll be like, huh, that was pretty darn good. The critics just aren't fair to poor Vin Diesel. So that's my review of Bloodshot. Share your own thoughts down below. Subscribe today. And of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.